Hi, everybody. Welcome to English Digest. I'm Tom.
I'm Stephanie.
We're going to continue talking about the Danish girl in our literature unit. This is the second day we're talking about the Danish girl. Last time we talked about the book and we talked about the plot of the book, so I don't really need to review it too much here, but what we're going to talk about today is the actual career of the author of the Danish girl, a man by the name of David Ebershoff.
Yeah. So as we typically do during our literature units, we're going to focus on the author's background, talk a little bit about him, how he became a writer, what he went through, and how he produced this book, The Danish Girl, which is interesting because I thought it was all true, but I was reading a little bit more about this true person. It's a real person, Einar Wegener. And I think some of the things in the Danish girl aren't completely accurate or we just don't know. But an author has the right to add or change things as they see fit, as they want to make the story more interesting. And of course, if it's turned into a movie, then it's changed even more. But today we're really going to focus on David Ebershoff. I hadn't heard of this guy before The Danish Girl came out, so we're going to learn a little bit more about him and talk about some of the words related to his background. Right now, we're going to read through our article. The illustrious career of David Ebershoff, the author of The Danish Girl, began with an internship at Random House, one of the largest book publishers in the world. From 1995 on, Ebershoff moved up the corporate ladder at Random House, eventually retiring from his position as vice president and executive editor to pursue his career in writing. He edited several prize-winning books, including 3 Pulitzer Prize winners and 1 National Book Award winner. He was also an acclaimed editor of more than 20 New York Times bestsellers. Much of Ebershoff's time at Random House was spent juggling his editorial duties and his own written work. The Danish Girl was published in 2000, and Ebershoff put out 3 more well-received novels before leaving the publishing company in 2015. Ebershoff's 4 novels have been translated into more than 20 languages. They also boast their own extensive collection of awards, nominations, and accolades. What's more, The Danish Girl has been adapted into an Oscar-nominated film. Ebershoff first came across the real story of Einar and Gerda, who became Greta in the novel, while flipping through a borrowed book. The mention of their names in the book was incidental, but it aroused Ebershoff's interest nonetheless. Further research subsequently led Ebershoff to Lily Elba's memoir, Man into Woman, which was heavily influential in his writing of The Danish Girl. To fully understand the breadth of Einar, Gerda, and Lily's lives, Ebershoff made 3 trips to Europe, retracing their steps through Copenhagen, Paris, and Dresden. Many of the medical documents tied to Lily's case were destroyed in World War II, leading to much uncertainty of the true nature of Lily's condition. Ebershoff used this ambiguity to his advantage while writing the book, blending fact with fiction to create not only powerful characters, but also the evocative imagery of their loves and losses.
Okay, let's get to it. Let's talk about the contents of today's lesson, The Danish Girl, A Search for Identity. And this book was written by David Ebershoff. He is the subject of today's lesson. We're going to be focusing on the writer himself. Again, David Ebershoff.
We sure are. We're calling his career illustrious. If you say someone's career has been illustrious, it means they're very well known, they're renowned, they're famous. So he's very famous. And so we're going to talk about how his career began. Well, he started as a lot of authors do. Working at a publishing company, Random House is really big. It's one of the biggest publishing companies in the world. And he had an internship there. An internship is a period of time you go and work at a company. Sometimes it's a paid internship, sometimes it's not, but you do it right after school or right before you graduate, maybe your senior year in college. You go and you work and you get some experience, and hopefully they either hire you after you graduate, or that internship experience that you can put on your resume helps you get a future job. So he started, as a lot of people do, doing an internship, which is great experience. When you talk about a publisher, of course, it's a company that takes manuscripts, the writing from different authors, and they print them and sell them to the public. They could publish books, magazines, lots of different things are published. So that's how he got his start. Well, from 1995 on, he started to move up the corporate ladder. This phrase, to move up the corporate ladder, just means you start out probably in an entry-level position. You're not very important. You might even work in the mail room, or you're an assistant or a secretary. But you keep doing a good job and you eventually are promoted into a pretty high position. When he retired recently, he actually was at the position of vice president and executive editor.
Ooh.
And that's when he left Random House to pursue his own career in writing. Actually, he had been trying to write while he was also working at Random House at the same time. But, it's pretty hard to have two careers at the same time.
Yeah, and I can't imagine someone who is an editor wanting to be only an editor all their life.
It's true.
They probably all aspire to be a writer. That's what we all want, to be a famous writer.
One of my best friends works at Random House. She's a vice president too, but she also wants to write. It's very hard to get published.
Indeed. Of course, there are hundreds of thousands of people who move to New York every year, and they try to get jobs. I'm different. I write really well. I write as good as or better than those other people. It should be no problem for me to get published. But, of course, there are a lot of broken hearts on Broadway there. Not everybody can be successful.
I just heard yesterday that Dr. Seuss, who has written all of these kids' books, he was rejected 27 times from publishing companies.
Oh,
and he's
no.
brilliant. So don't give up, writers out there. Keep sending your stuff in. You'll get a break someday.
But don't quit your daytime job.
No, keep working, please.
Indeed.
Yeah.
So, these are some of the positions that he has held at Random House: vice president, executive editor, but he quit to pursue his career in writing. And he edited several prize-winning books, including 3 Pulitzer Prize winners and 1 National Book Award winner. So he was an editor there, which means you kind of look at things and you make changes and stuff, but you're not actually the writer. And he did this. I guess that's pretty good experience, especially if they were books that won some prizes. We've got the Pulitzer Prize, which is usually given for journalism, but they also have a category for novels. And also there's the National Book Award. That's an award in the United States as well. There are different kinds of book awards in different countries. If you're looking for something to write, you could probably find lists of award-winning books on the internet somewhere.
Those are 2 of the best awards, though, right there. He was also an acclaimed editor of more than 20 New York Times bestsellers. So he was a really good editor, it sounds like. An editor can always take someone's book and make it better by suggesting changes and kind of looking at some of the structure of the story and things like that. If you have a good editor, they can help you. And he sounds like he was quite good. If you're an acclaimed editor, or someone has acclaimed your talents, or you've gotten some acclaimed praise, it just means someone's really complimented this person publicly too. So if you're an acclaimed author, an acclaimed singer, an acclaimed athlete, someone's praised your ability and they've been very public about it too. So he's really done quite well as an editor. Now, much of Ebershoff's time at Random House was spent juggling his editorial duties and his own written work. Now, he can't be writing his own personal novels while he's being paid by Random House. He should be working, doing his editorial work while he's at work, and then once he, goes home, he can write. That's why it's so hard to juggle two careers. To juggle actually means to take, 3 balls and throw them up in the air?
Three or more.
3 or more balls. I can only do 3. Keep them all going up in the air at the same time. So it's hard to, do 2 careers or try to pursue your hobby and keep your job at the same time. It's not easy juggling these things. Everybody who has kids has to juggle being a parent with their responsibilities at work. Sometimes that's hard too.
And I imagine this is probably the case for a lot of people who move to New York. They've got a job that pays the bills, but they still want to aspire to do something else, to be an actor or a singer on Broadway, to be a writer, to be a musician, whatever. So he had to juggle his editorial duties. Editorial means having to do with being an editor, and his own written work. So he probably worked during the day, and then he wrote a little bit in his latest novel at night, working into the wee hours. And we're going to take a break right now, and we'll come back and continue talking about Ebershoff's career in just a second. But right now, here comes our Chinese teacher.
大家好，欢迎收听 English Digest， 我是 Alice。今天我们要阅读的文章是 Unit14 文学单元的第2天课程。在今天的课程中，我们将会知道作者的生平及创作这本小说的背景。首先，我们看到本课用了几个复合形容词，例如第一段倒数第2句的 prize winning， 意思是得奖的；第二段的第2句 well received， 意思是受到好评的、受到欢迎的；以及第二段的倒数第2个字 Oscar nominated， 意思是被奥斯卡提名的。复合形容词是指由2个或2个字以上的字所组成的形容词。最常见的复合形容词结构是第一个字使用名词、副词或是形容词，第二个字则是搭配现在分词 VING 或过去分词 VPP。例如课文中提到的 prize-winning books， 原句是 books that won prizes， 书赢得奖项是主动语态，所以用现在分词 winning。我们再来看本课的另一个复合形容词 well-received novels， 原句是 novels that are received well。 由于小说是受到好评，这是被动语态，所以用过去分词 received。
Stay tuned, we'll be right back.
The time has now come for us to continue talking about today's lesson. Again, we're talking about the author David Ebershoff. Okay, he's the fella that wrote our featured novel, The Danish Girl. And we were talking about how he got his start at Random House. He was an editor there. He edited many famous novels. And later he quit to work on his own. And The Danish Girl was published in 2000. 16 years ago, and Ebershoff put out 3 more well-received novels before leaving the publishing company in 2015. Okay, so he's got some other novels there as well. They were well received, which means people accepted them and they thought they were pretty good. The critics liked them and lots of people bought them and stuff like that. And finally, he left the publishing company of Random House in 2015. He's got a couple of successful novels. He's got royalties coming in, so he does not need to punch a time clock at Random House anymore.
Pretty cool. It says here that his novels really are around the world, aren't they? 20 languages. It's pretty cool. Now, it says they also, we're referring to his books, boast their own extensive collection of awards. These are his own personal novels that he wrote, not that he edited. If you boast something here, it just means you possess something that's pretty cool and you feel proud about it, okay? Taiwan boasts the world's best beef noodle soup, is what I would say. I know, I love it. You can also boast as a person, which means you're bragging about something. You're saying, "Oh, I'm so great. I'm so smart. I'm the best singer. I'm more talented than anyone." That's bragging. But if a place or something has something, we'll often use boast just to say you possess something that's pretty cool that you're proud of. It's a source of pride.
That's right. So these novels also boast their own extensive collection of awards, nominations, and accolades. Extensive means it covers a large area. It's not just small in scope or range. It's quite large. So he's got an extensive collection of awards, recognitions, nominations, accolades, etc. An award, of course, is something you get when somebody gives you an award like Best Novel of the Year or something like that. You might get a trophy as well.
Yeah.
Also, a nomination here means somebody has mentioned your name as a possible winner of something. Of course, there are many nominations for the Oscars every year for Best Actor, Best Actress, Best Film, Best Director, etc. We've also got accolades here, which is kind of similar to an award, but it's kind of like a privilege, a special honor, even though it may not actually be an official award. So yes, indeed, we've got The Danish Girl as a novel, and it has been adapted into a movie that produced some Oscar awards there. Not for Best Picture, but as you said, for Best Actress, and maybe some other things there. I didn't watch the Oscars, although that was on a holiday day.
I don't know if they won any other Oscars. I didn't notice, but I did notice that one.
We got some nominations, though.
Yeah.
Let's move on now to the next paragraph. It says, Ebershoff first came across the real story of Einar and Gerda, who became Greta in the novel, while flipping through a borrowed book. Okay, writers get their ideas from various sources here. So he was flipping through a book that he borrowed either from the library or from a friend, and he's caught something or something caught his attention. Flipping through, here's page 20, here's page 30. Hey, what's this? This picture's interesting. Hey, this is interesting information here. So he came across this story that was in some book somewhere. If you come across something, that means you kind of discover something by accident. Okay, you didn't really mean to find it. It just kind of came to you.
Yeah, so he's just flipping through a borrowed book. Well, the mention of their names in the book was incidental, which means it wasn't an important part of the book that he was reading, just happened to be there. Maybe incidental items. You'll often hear that phrase, incidental items, which means things like, I don't know, your toothbrush, your comb, things you take along with you when you're traveling. Incidental things, not extremely important, but it's nice to have with you. If something arouses your interest, it just means it causes you to be interested. But he saw their names and he thought, who are they? And he wanted to do some more investigating. And then he, of course, did some further research or more research. And subsequently, or, after he started researching, then it led him to Lily Elba's memoir. If you have a memoir, it means you write your own personal history. It's not a complete autobiography. It's just some thoughts about your life. It was called Man into Woman. And that book was heavily influential in David Ebershoff's writing of The Danish Girl.
Indeed. So she wrote a memoir. He found it, he read it, and that influenced his writing of this novel. And to fully understand the breadth of Einar, Gerda, and Lily's lives, Ebershoff made 3 trips to Europe, retracing their steps through Copenhagen, Paris, and Dresden. Remember, those are the 3 main cities in this novel. So he wanted to understand the breadth of this story. That just means basically all aspects of something, the depth, the width, the height. He's just trying to understand every side of this particular story. So indeed, he went to Copenhagen, and he probably tried to figure out where they lived and where they sold their paintings to kind of get a feel for their lives. And he went to Paris and Dresden, Germany as well.
I wanted to mention, you'll often hear people say Copenhagen. They're both correct. Copenhagen, Copenhagen. So many of the medical documents that are tied to Lily's case, remember they had that Dr. Bulk, right? Did the surgery.
Yep.
Those records that they had were destroyed during World War II. Maybe they were bombed. The building they were in, was burned down. We don't know. But this led to a lot of uncertainty about Lily's true condition, the true nature of Lily's condition. For example, I read myself that they're not really sure if Elnar actually had those underdeveloped ovaries. That's an example of not knowing or being uncertain about the true nature of Lily's condition.
Right. Authors do that sometimes for effect in the novel, and filmmakers do that as well. So, yeah, if they say it's based on a true story, you probably need to figure out exactly what parts are true and what parts are kind of exaggerated or whatever.
Or have been changed just to make it more interesting.
Yeah, totally different. Yeah. Indeed. Just like Titanic, that movie. There was never Leonardo DiCaprio on that boat
and Kate
falling
Winslet,
in love with a rich girl. It didn't happen. That was just thrown in there.
Those are brand new characters.
Yeah, totally. So sometimes filmmakers and authors do that. Yeah. But in any case, yes, this led to a lot of uncertainty of the true nature of her condition. They don't really know for sure if that's what she suffered from or if she had those ovaries. And Ebershoff used this ambiguity to his advantage. Ambiguity is when something is uncertain. Nobody really knows for sure. Ambiguous is the adjective. Sometimes people talk and they don't come to the point. Hey, quit being so ambiguous. Please come to the point and tell us some actual facts. But he used this to his advantage, which means he used it to help him personally.
That's right. So what he did was he took some of the fact and blended it or combined it with fiction to create his powerful characters in his book. But his blending of fact and fiction also produced this evocative imagery of their loves and losses. Evocative just means it brings to mind really strong images or memories or feelings too. So it was pretty cool to people love love stories, and
sure.
That's kind of what he used to his advantage. Right now, guys, somebody who's going to help you, and you can use this help to your advantage, of course, is our Chinese teacher.
接下来我们看到第一段的最后一句 He was also an acclaimed editor of more than 20 New York Times bestsellers. 他也是一位受到赞扬的编辑，编辑超过20本纽约时报畅销书。Acclaimed, A-C-C-L-A-I-M-E-D 在本句是做形容词用，表示受到称赞的。它的动词 acclaim 是为什么什么喝彩称赞的意思。有几个动词的字形跟 acclaim 很像，意思却不一样，在使用的时候千万别混淆咯。第一个动词是 claim, C-L-A-I-M 意思是声称要求。例如 The journalist claims that he has evidence to prove that the politician took bribes. 这位记者声称他有证据证明那位政治人物收贿。另一个动词 exclaim E-X-C-L-A-I-M 是大声喊出的意思。例如 The boat passengers exclaimed with delight when they saw dolphins swimming by. 船上的乘客看到海豚游过去时高兴地惊呼。另外还有 reclaim R-E-C-L-A-I-M 有收回取回的意思。例如 After finding his fiancée cheating on him, Brian reclaimed the engagement ring. 发现他的未婚妻对他不忠后，布莱恩收回订婚戒指。最后还有一个动词 proclaim, P-R-O-C-L-A-I-M 意思是宣告、宣布。例如 Bonnie proclaimed in front of her relatives that she is going to study abroad by the end of this month. 宝妮在亲戚面前宣告，她即将在这个月底前出国念书。文章的最后一段提到作者创作这本小说的背景， 我们看到这一段最后一句的前半部分 Ebershoff used this ambiguity to his advantage while writing the book. 埃伯雪夫在写作这本书时，将这样的含糊不清转为己用。本句的一个名词 advantage 是指优势、有利条件、益处的意思。To one's advantage 就是指对某人有利。另外几个常见相关的片语还有 take advantage of somebody or something， 意思是利用某人或某事物。举个例子 We took advantage of today's good weather to go on a picnic. 我们利用今天的好天气去野餐。Have an advantage over somebody 意思就是比某人有较多的优势。例如 Diana had an advantage over the other job applicants because of her volunteer experience. 戴安娜因为有义工经验，所以她比其他应征这份工作者更有优势。以上就是今天的课程，谢谢收听。
That's all for today, everybody, but we're not done talking about the Danish girl. We're going to actually go back to the novel in our program next time and talk about some of the themes and ideas in this book and why we think you might enjoy reading it. From all of us here at English Digest, I'm Tom.
I'm Stephanie.
Bye.
Bye.